The year is 1324. An African king, Mansa Musa, the 10th Sultan of the Mali Empire, decides to go on a pilgrimage to the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. He is considered to be the richest man in the medieval ages, the greatest gold trader of the Mediterranean region. It is reported that in his procession there were about 60,000 people, of which 12,000 were slaves, carrying gold bars, gold dust, and opulent staffs made of solid gold. On his way, he distributed large amounts of gold as charity in each city, town, and village that he passed, all the way from the Western Africa to the Middle East. By the time he reached Mecca a year later, the metal was greatly devalued because everyone had it. Some cities actually faced famine because of the free markets he unknowingly created. His intent was to help people, but ironically, it didn't go as he planned. Free markets are favored by capitalism, but capitalism can be a tricky thing. So, what is it? What is capitalism? It is perhaps the most enduring and significant of all isms of the 21st century. Its beginning can be traced back to a few centuries before. Capitalism is a socio-economic system that focuses on the capital aspect of societies. That is to say, money matters. It asks for a political economic system where the people are allowed to private ownership of property or means of production, and there is a limited or zero intervention of the state in the market dynamics. The origins of the idea are disputed among historians. Some claim it began since the agrarian civilization when people earned their living through agricultural produce, while others think it started with the mercantile society when trade was the primary source of people's income. In the early Renaissance, around the 15th century, Medicis, a family of Florentine bankers, incorporated the significance of money and market dynamics in politics, statecraft, art, and life in general. Giovanni de' Medici, and later on his son Cosimo de' Medici, became the de facto masters of Florence because they provided people with good trade and little involvement of the state in their trade matters. Modern idea of capitalism reached popularity in the Cold War era of the 20th century when a power tussle emerged between the East and the West. This enmity was based on the fight between the economic systems of the capitalist democracies and the socialist regimes, a coincidentia oppositorum, coincided opposites, which means that two opposites validate the existence of each other. Presence of one signified the presence of the other. The rise of Marxism and communism greatly influenced the rise of capitalism as the prevalent system of economics around the world even more. The system encourages a spirit of competition among the people for a better life and accumulation of wealth beyond needs. In 1776, Adam Smith wrote a spectacular treatise, The Wealth of Nations, which changed everything. It is based on the principles of limited intervention of states in market economy and free trade, which acted as a prerequisite for the modern industrial capitalism. The book appended mercantilism, which proposed to hold wealth and property, buying nothing in return. This choked the international trade. Adam propounded that humans have a natural tendency towards self interest, which results in prosperity. Smith argued that by giving everyone freedom to produce and exchange goods as they pleased, that is, free trade, and opening the markets up to domestic and foreign trade, competition would increase. People's natural self interest would promote greater prosperity than with stringent government regulations. The time of Adam's treatise coincided with the Declaration of Independence, another very important document in that year on the other side of the Atlantic, the document that established the independence of USA from the imperial clutches of Britain. This overlapping of events led to the formation of an American ideology of liberty, to conduct businesses, making wealth, and living the American dream, where every person can be rich provided they work hard in the right direction. It demolished the old models of aristocracy, therefore making America the most capitalist of all countries. Land, since ancient times, was considered to be the actual wealth, a tangible commodity. In his work Contrat social, the social contract, Jean Jacques Rousseau pointed out that the civil society came into being when the first man decided to delineate a piece of land and claiming it to be his own. That is when the competition among people started. Private ownership of property is one of the main postulates of capitalism. And if one is to believe Rousseau, capitalism starts with the society itself. Capitalism has faced many criticisms from Marxism, anarchism, and many other isms. Considered by many as a draconian system that created many immorals within the society, an unequal distribution of wealth, greed, avarice, accumulation, and a race for worldliness. The notion came out of the teachings of Christian Catholic doctrines, which for most time has been the prevailing belief system in the European countries. The Church saw wealth as an evil that gave rise to the cardinal sins, and therefore wealth must only be acquired to sustain life and basic needs. However, this idea changed drastically with the rise of the Protestant Church in England, who shared a very different view of wealth as compared to the Catholics. Quite conveniently so, this coincided with the time of English imperial exploits. The wealth and prosperity of the British Empire increased drastically. German sociologist Max Weber pointed out in his work The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. The Western European Protestants, especially the Calvinists, saw wealth as a bounty of God which needed to be made more so that it can be found out who is saved and who is damned. They believed that a person's fate was already determined by God, and to know who is salvaged, material success meant success in the afterlife. Extra wealth was not evil anymore, but a blessing of God to create the kingdom of heaven here on earth. The idea gave rise to an uncoordinated and unplanned but very powerful process that led to the formation of the modern capitalism in Europe and later on in the rest of the world. Mansa Musa might not have expected the result of his giving away of free gold in such an opulent manner might start up the free markets, but the 20th century economists understood capitalism to be the most natural way of life. Wealth increased, people prospered, and mankind advanced significantly. To find out more about other isms, ideas, theories, and anecdotes, watch our other videos. Until next time, keep learning more.